Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Tuesday, the 15th day of July, 2025. It is Tuesday of the 15th week of the year, the 15th week in Ordinary Time. But more importantly, today in the Franciscan world, it is the feast of St. Bonaventure, the great Franciscan doctor, the one in whose lineage now I stand as being somebody who has a degree too, and somebody who's smart with books and things like that. So we honor St. Bonaventure today. We honor all of Franciscan scholars today, all those who study, again, as Bonaventure did, to enable our journey into the mind, into the heart of God, which is what St. Bonaventure understood study and learning to do, is to open to us more and more in all ways, shapes and forms, the many ways in which God is active in our world and in our lives, and what that activity points us to and calls us to as faithful children, as images and likenesses of this God who creates us and who puts all things into order and who sustains and maintains all things. So on this great day of Bonaventure, there are special readings for him in the Franciscan Lectionary, but our readings for today, we move quickly into the early life of Moses. Again, the Pharaoh Seti the First, perhaps it was, who is afraid of a redeemer or some kind of liberator for the Hebrew people, orders all of the Hebrew children, the firstborn males, to be thrown into the Nile River. One of them, however, is saved, is hidden for a while, as it says in this passage, but then is placed upon the waters of the Nile in an ark, in a boat, which the daughter of Pharaoh, who in the Ten Commandments is named Bithia, although she doesn't really have a name in Scripture, finds this ark, this basket in which Moses happens to be, and she adopts the child, calling the child Moses because in Egyptian it means to take out from the water, the Nile god having perhaps given the child to her, she believes. The child is raised in Pharaoh's court, becomes adopted by Pharaoh, perhaps becomes a favorite, never ever seen, never true. Again, this is where Ten Commandments makes up a whole bunch of things as to how Pharaoh might have lived, or how Moses might have lived his early life in Pharaoh's court and what have you. But what happens is that he goes and sees an Egyptian beating one of the Hebrew slaves, and in his own rage, he kills this Egyptian taskmaster and buries his body in the sand, which is kind of ridiculous because the sand's always going to shift and you're going to find the body to begin with. But the Hebrews then start fighting against each other, and Moses tries to stop that, and then they basically call him on the fact that he's already killed somebody for beating somebody. Is he going to do that again? He begins to realize that perhaps this action that he has done, which I guess is illegal, even though Moses is a member of Pharaoh's court, he still should not have killed a fellow Egyptian, now fears for his own life, and Pharaoh sets out to kill him, and he's now run into the desert. So again, tumult after tumult after tumult. This is how the first 5 books of the Old Testament work. And out of the chaos, again, God's will is done. And so we'll see that. But it's important to remember that, how God's will is done in the midst of chaos. And that really, if you look at all of Scripture so many times over, it is one chaotic event after one chaotic event. And then the light of God's love and God's mercy shines through that. It allows us to take a look differently at chaos, perhaps, in our lives, and what chaos can open us to and help us understand even more. In Matthew's Gospel, Matthew's Gospel. There's a lot in Matthew's Gospel of Jesus basically condemning town after town after town for not welcoming him, for not respecting him. The whole idea of just shaking the dust from the sandals and walking on your way is just not enough. And so it's like Chorazin, this town around the Sea of Galilee, which refuses to accept Jesus and his teaching, basically is condemned. And the cities of Tyre and Sidon, which are not specifically Jewish, but are crossroads of many different kinds of peoples, that they would welcome Jesus's message much more readily, than this Jewish city will, and that basically if Sodom, could have welcomed this message, they would have been saved, as much. But Chorazin doesn't believe that, and so Chorazin is going to suffer some kind of punishment because of this. Again, it's all an example of the necessity of listening to what it is that Jesus is trying to do, and of trying to understand what it is all about, because the condemnation happens after people refuse to accept it. The condemnation is not the heart of the message, and so this is kind of where it's a little bit tricky to find ourselves wrapped around this. The message is about life. The message is about wholeness. The message is about taking off the burdens and the pains and the weights that people think that they labor under, especially when it comes to terms of religion. And if you're not going to accept that, the question is always why? And because you don't accept that, basically it works to your own detriment. This is what we have to realize about faith. Faith is not meant to burden us. Faith is not meant to give us pain. Faith is not meant to cause us distress and anxiety. Faith is meant to free, to liberate us, to allow us to see the more about ourselves that we alone cannot see. If it is not doing that, it is not faith. But if it is, it begs our attention and it begs our affirmation in our own lives. A blessed day, St. Francis and people of God. A happy Bonaventure Day. May the Lord give you his peace.